Joining me right now is UFC bantamweight Brian Kelleher. Business is booming, like he likes to say. It's always good catching up with him. What's going on, man?
What's going on, man? That's right. Business is booming coming up January 16th.
All right. Well, before we get to 2021, man, 2020, you went 3-1, three finishes, three performance bonuses. People, I think they forget that you missed the whole 2019 and you come back with this year that you had, man. What can you say about it under the circumstances?
Yeah, it's crazy. I know 2019 wasn't so great, and then 2020, with all the stuff happening in the world, it was kind of cool to still have like such a great year for myself, staying active in the cage and still able to work and get paid. And it worked out amazing because I got 3 wins, 3 bonuses. Like couldn't have gone any better. You know what I mean? I mean, I had the loss to Cody Stamen, but I was a top 10 guy, and it was a good contest. I feel like it was pretty competitive. I know I lost, unanimous decision, but I thought I fought pretty well. And then yeah, now I'm starting 2021 off strong, coming up in January, so it was good.
What did you learn most from the Stamen fight now that you look back at it? Because that was the only blemish of that year.
Yeah, just kind of pull the trigger a little bit more. I feel like I just he edged me out just a little bit. He was just one step ahead of me every time we exchanged. And don't get complacent. He took me down a couple of times. Feel like I kind of got lazy because I'm very confident about getting back up to my feet. And you just can't think like that. You got to be the one that's like, no, I'm going to take you down and land ground and pound and hold you down. So just that mentality and just to not get complacent in there.
Is it kind of like when you get to a certain point, there's certain guys out there that are not there to be exciting. They're not there to be going for the finish. They're there to win. And sometimes you have to kind of go into a fight with that mentality, kind of match that intensity.
Yeah, it's not something I think of, but it's definitely true now that you say it. I mean, it's out there. Guys that are more strategic and kind of more point fighters looking to just kind of edge you out, which I don't blame them. That's how it is. If you go to the judges these days, it's hard to finish guys. Sometimes it's just tough to get a guy out of there that's at such a high level. So I think they approach it like that, where I don't ever really go in there approaching it like that. I kind of imagine I'm going to get a finish every time I go in there. That's my goal. So it's different mindset. When I throw strikes, I throw to try to take your head off. And if you try to shoot on me, I'm trying to latch up a choke and finish the fight and get out of there. So
With everything, that you went through, the highs and the lows, has it been the best year so far of your career?
yeah, I think it's been the best. 3 wins, 3 bonuses. I couldn't complain, especially with the pandemic, being able to fight that many times. Also, not even having to cut weight most of those fights. I fought 3 times at 145, and that made things a little easier with the circumstances. So, with all that said, yeah, I mean, it can't get much better except, 4-0, hopefully this year coming up.
Yeah, definitely. You get this fight rebooked with Ricky Simone. He started off his career with UFC really good. Like he won three straight. Marab, Montel Jackson, was it Hani Yaya? Those are some big names in the division. But in his last three, he's been 1-2. Do you see him somewhat declining, or do you feel like he might be plateauing as a fighter?
I don't see him declining. I still think he's a solid guy. I think it's just matchups. Styles make fights. Honestly, that Marab fight I think could have gone either way. It was controversial. I don't think Marab was out maybe at the end there. But the ref said he was out with pretty much a couple seconds left. And that was a competitive fight. Montel Jackson, I was impressed at his dominance. Able to wrestle the whole time and kind of continuously take him down. I look at him as an aggressive guy that's got good cardio. He's a grinder. He likes to mix it up strikes and takedowns, and pretty well-rounded guy. So I don't think he's dwindling or fading. He's still pretty young too. So I think it's just matchups. Different fights. Sometimes guys show up mentally there, and sometimes they don't. So you never know what's going on behind the scenes.
Definitely. Well, his last fight against Ray Borg, he got the split decision. What did you think about that performance in particular?
Yeah, I thought that was an exciting fight. I just, Ray Borg was kind of standing in front of him, just straight up, no lateral movement and just kind of exchanging shots in the pocket. I kind of think Ricky Simone likes that style of fighting where you kind of just exchange with him in the pocket and he doesn't have to deal with adversity much or a lot of, movement and stuff like that. Also, Ray Borg's naturally a flyweight, I feel, and he was able to kind of bully him a little bit in there. And I just feel like against me, like it's going to be a different feel for sure.
Since your last fight, with the situation in New York on Long Island, how is it?
Yeah, it's a little bit, we're trying to be smart. We're trying to select, specific guys to work with and keep it in small groups. Now it seems like things are getting worse again, so I'm kind of trying to figure out how to work around that. I've been fortunate though to still have access to my gyms and still have, 3 or 4 solid guys to spar with and make sure I get the proper training. I mean, for me, I've always been self-disciplined. I get my swimming in, my running in, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, we've been working around it, and so far it's been okay. I mean, we only got like another week and a half here, and then I leave to Vegas, so I think I'll be fine.
Any more interesting encounters with people outside?
What's that?
Like training
Outside where?
outside, you know what I mean? Because people like to give their opinions when they don't need to give opinions about,
No, yeah,
contact.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been okay with that. Guys that I trust that I've been with, training the gym. Nothing crazy's happened. I feel like you just got to stick to those partners that are kind of keeping to themselves, and it is hard, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like with these circumstances, it's really like you got to take the risk. At this point, it's like for me it's my job. If I want to go into this fight and be prepared to fight and win and make my 2 paychecks, like I got to take risks in the gym and sometimes, get the best training that's available. But at the same time, I do try my best to some days I'll just do one-on-one sessions, with one guy that I know that, he's my main training partner, or it could be my brother. He also has fought in the past, so that's helpful too. So I stick to those guys.
Has it ever crossed your mind to just pack bags and head to Vegas, or just head somewhere where it's not as, I guess, restrictive?
I mean, I love it here. My family's here, my friends are here, everybody. So I don't see myself moving per se, but I do think about maybe rental property in Vegas, something I can maybe go back and forth to, something like that to utilize the UFC PI. And, maybe if shit hits the fan here, I can go there and kind of figure things out and have better training situation. But I think for the most part with the vaccine and stuff, if people do take it, things might get a little bit better around here. Hopefully, that's what I'm hoping for. But yeah, I mean, I would never move because of this situation unless it got like crazy again.
Has anything changed for you, since the last booking compared to this one, with preparations for Simone?
Not really. Just mentally, just making sure my mind state is good. Just going into the gym, with a more positive mindset and being able to adapt and not let things affect me as much. Sometimes I could be sensitive, emotional. You care. You know what I mean? You really care about how you're doing, how you're feeling. So some days I have bad days. Now I feel like I kind of look at it more as a learning lesson and not like, oh man, like I'm losing to this guy. How am I gonna beat this guy? Like, you overthink things sometimes. So for me, just trying to enjoy the process more, just train hard and just kind of keep it simple, just stay ready, work on little details that I need to work on to get better and just get better everywhere, really. I mean, you can't pick one spot like, oh, I want to get better at boxing. Like, no, I got to get better at every single thing to be at the pinnacle of the sport and keep my stay at the UFC. So
You have some momentum heading into 2021. Is that a real thing for fighters? Is that something that you feel yourself?
I think it's real, man, because I believe in the energy like that. I feel like for me going into the next fight, feeling the way I feel, having that swag that like, what, I'm doing really well still. I might be 34, but I still feel like I'm in my prime. I don't care what anyone else is going to say, but like how you feel is important, and for me, how I fought last year, how I won those fights, and even how I lost that fight to Stamen, I'm proud of myself and how I did. And I honestly feel like I'm in the best shape I could be, and I'm the best fighter that I've ever been right now. Experience is another factor that comes into play here, and I have a lot of experience, so I bring that into the cage with me every time.
Is experience and COVID experience different?
Uh, I I mean, they're different in a sense, but they're both experience. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think being in the cage, with no fans has been huge, and for me, like that was part of the plan. Like I wanted to get active and kind of get the feel for that, and I actually enjoy it. I think it's different atmosphere. It's eerie in there. It's kind of quiet, but you hear your corners really well. And I think like honestly, the fans are amazing and I miss them and I can't wait to have them back. But like, there's a little bit more nervousness, a little bit more higher stakes feel at fights where you're in arenas that are packed out, filled. So with this Apex and with Abu Dhabi, I feel like it's going to be a little bit more lackluster, and like, I'm able to calm down and kind of just feel like I'm at the gym. So it's been beneficial for me.
Yeah, some fighters, it seems like it has been a hindrance for them because they can't feel that energy and they feed off the
Yeah.
crowd. A lot of people say Tony Ferguson is like a prime example of that.
It could be, man. I mean, you've seen guys perform different in these circumstances, where I think if there was fans there, it could make a difference. I do think that noise plays a role, just like momentum. These are factors that maybe people don't really consider, but they are things that are potentially something that could affect someone. It's really the individual person. Like for me, like in the Barral fight when I fought him, I remember feeling that energy. I remember the crowd getting louder and louder as we exchanged, and I wanted to just knock him out. Like I felt like I was a madman in there. So I do think there is positives to that loud roar that the crowd gives, and I miss that. That's the part that I really miss.
When you watch fights, do you see yourself waiting for in between rounds where you could hear the coaches and kind of dissect what they say? Because possibly you could be fighting one of those teams.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't like done my homework to that extent. I do, one of my coaches is like really detailed with like taking notes and doing his research, and I feel like he would be the type of guy to do that. For me, it's more so improvisation. I don't, for me, that creates an overthinking. I feel like too much, like too detailed of things. It can go in there and freeze you up sometimes. So for me, I'm more like, let's just go by the feel. How do I feel in there? What's this guy doing? How am I? What's working for me? Adapting on the fly, stuff like that. I feel like is very important at this stage because it's all about inches. Like at the speed of things that are happening in there, like you have to be able to react on point. Your reactions have to be there, and you got to be fast paced and be able to adapt on the fly and make sure that if something's not working, you can figure out what will work and how to fix that.
Yeah, high level problem solving with whatever Joe Rogan was saying with like
Yeah.
devastating consequences, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the best way you could say it.
So do you feel like, in the last couple of years you have done a better job with compartmentalizing everything and like you just said, your job is to go in there and improvise. All the other stuff, overthinking, that's for your coaches. And some guys, I feel like they do too much of that, right?
Yeah, and like a perfect example for me when I'm in camp is like before I even do anything, I'll tell my coaches how I feel. I'm very communicative, so I'm like, listen, I don't like when people constantly bring up my opponent and like he does this well, he's going to look to do this, because I don't believe that necessarily, and I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on like, no, I'm going to do this and I worked on this and I'm going to make sure this lands and this and this. So I like to focus more on myself having success than I focus on almost a defensive mindset. Like, oh, what if he does this? What if he does that? Now you're already reacting to something that might not even happen. He might come in and do a complete different game plan and throw you off, and now you're thrown off. And I'd rather be able to be free and open-minded, empty-minded, and just go in there and believe that what I'm going to do is going to work. So I tell my coaches this, and they kind of approach it that way now. They say like, okay, I'm just going to bring it to the table. We're going to work on certain things. I'm not even going to say anything, but he knows why he's working on it, and I'm just going. And that's how we do it.
With this fight coming up, everybody's talking about, hey, Simone's going to run into that Boumatine. Do you see this fight going to the ground, or do you feel like it could be a striking clinic out there?
I see the fight going everywhere, honestly, but at the same time, I think he is getting into this comfort zone of striking, kind of like Hunter Azure. I feel like when I fought him, he kind of fell away from his wrestling and he felt that confidence in striking, and it kind of ended up being his downfall. And I feel like with Simone, he doesn't like to wrestle a lot unless he's hurt. If you hit him with something good and he loses that confidence on the feet, he'll shoot those doubles and he'll try to control you on the ground for a little bit. But he is good at mixing things up. And I think that for me too, I like to mix things up, and I'm confident in catching submissions as well as my power on the feet. So I think this fight will be everywhere, honestly. I think there'll be some scrambles, there'll be some striking pocket exchanges, and then there'll be some wrestling exchanges as well.
January 16th, UFC Fight Island. Thank you so much, Brian, for the time. Good luck on the fight, man. All the best.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate you. Have a good one.
Take a move in the ring. You can hit me with a word you fling.